It was supposed to be. Okay, why aren't they allowing?
Oh, come back. You're not allowing them in?
I'm trying. They're not coming in though.
they've all just sort of said, that's it. You're at 7:03. Screw you. I'm off.
No, can you invite them in? For some
Yeah.
reason, I won't let it.
Yes, I can. All right. Admit. Lovely. Welcome, folks. Hello. I'm just admitting participants here. Hi, folks. Hi.
Hi, Cheryl. Hi, Lucy.
Welcome.
Hi, Pascal.
Hi,
Hello.
Hello. Just give me a second. I'm just trying to get people in here. Hello, all. Lucy is in her living room in Cochrane.
I am. Hello from Cochrane.
Hi, Lucie Bause.
Hi, Wanda.
Hi. Nice to see you.
Nice to see you too. And I saw your talk just recently, and I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to this. Oh, yeah, that was fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was outside. You guys were outside sipping cocktails in the summertime. That was nice.
Wasn't that a beautiful summer moment?
Yeah, it was. It was good.
Things are not quite so wonderful today. And
not so summery. Not so summery today.
Not so brilliant today. I'm going to welcome everybody. So if you're muting for a bit, and then when the question time comes in, come on back in. Welcome, everybody. We are celebrating a brand new exhibition by Lucie Bause called reNEWal. And I'm going to tell you, although I'm sure you all know enough about Lucie Bause by now, I'm going to tell you a few things about Lucie. Lucie studied literature at Trent University in Ontario, Spanish language and literature at Universidad de Granada in Spain, and fine art at the Alberta College of Art and Design, which all I knew, but I wasn't able to know completely until I reread that. So she has been in the Bow Valley now for, what did you say the other day? 30 years.
Oh my gosh.
Lucie has occupied various parts of the Bow Valley for 30 years, coming to Banff early on as a skier and a backcountryist, and working her way through the restaurant world into a complete career, a full-time career as an artist that long ago, and has recently situated herself in Cochrane and manages to kind of be part of the Bow Valley comings and goings still, and is kind of simultaneously teaching and continuing her art practice. So we're excited to see a new show. As with everyone, there's been a lot of quiet lately in production and productivity through the whole COVID thing. And Lucie just felt like now was the time for a bit of a reemergence. So I'm excited to welcome Lucie Bause. We're going to jump into the 35 very fast questions of Lucie Bause to get to know her. I swore I'd take it easy on her. I wanted to make sure I pointed that out because she was nervous about this part. So Lucie and I are going to jump into the questions, and then we'll just talk a bit about some of the pieces in the show, the exhibition itself. We'll look at some of the images of the exhibition, and then we're going to open it up for everybody else to ask questions. So I am going to start questioning. What's the last in-person art show you attended?
Oh my goodness. Well, it was a while ago, and it was definitely an art exhibition at Elevation Gallery.
Was it?
For certain. Which exactly it was. I don't know that I can recall exactly which one it was, but it was definitely an exhibition at Elevation Gallery. Two years ago.
Yeah, it's that long.
Yeah.
we just had our first sit-down conversation in a very long time. What is the first thing that you look closely at when you walk into somebody else's house? It's one of my favorite questions.
I guess I look for a general impression, and then I inevitably, whether I want to or not, look at whether their paintings are straight.
Oh no.
And that's not because I want to, that just happens. That's just something that I notice.
Do you know how telling that statement is about who you are? Whoa, what is the first thing you thought about when you woke up this morning?
Probably this Zoom call, because I was very nervous about it. So I think I woke up thinking, I don't know what this is, and therefore I'm nervous, but I'm also very excited.
Okay, good. Who is the artist currently inspiring you the most?
I would say that artist is Mother Nature.
Oh, beautiful.
In all her glory, yes.
And has that always been the way, or is it more now than it has ever been?
I think it always has been, but it's definitely more so now, just because in this last couple of years where, the outer activity in the more social and cultural realms have been so much quieter, that I've just been spending more time in my backyard and noticing smaller things, more natural things that are closer to home. And so that's, and it always changes to the inspiring artist, but who's the most inspirational at what point in time. But right now I would say, Mother Nature and the natural world. Beautiful.
And it's the reemergence thing too. I think it just heightens all of that so deeply for all of us. What's your biggest fear?
My biggest fear in life is
in everything. Yeah.
In everything? Wow, that's a good question. My biggest fear is probably the unknown. Yeah.
And what a couple of years it's been then.
Yeah, it's sort of been like living in the fear for the last couple of years.
All that unknown.
And I think I would imagine that's a pretty common fear, and one that we've all been sort of getting very well acquainted with in the past couple of years.
Also, I think a little bit more accustomed to, and maybe there's something valuable in that.
Absolutely.
There's something valuable in the outcomes of that, because we've all become a little more accustomed to facing the unknown.
A little bit more comfortable as the time goes by. Yeah.
Are you genuine introvert or extrovert?
I think that's something that has been up for debate in the past couple of years as well. That I think I always thought I was an extrovert until these past couple of years of serious introversion, and now I'm really uncertain. I like both, and I really connect with both now. And what's the one where you are both? There's one that's the combination of the two.
I'm going to be looking that up any minute, but it's like an ambidextrous version.
Yes,
of that.
it's like that, like a bit of both. But I've definitely spent more time in the introverted aspect than ever before in this last while, and it was hard at first, and then it got easier as well.
Do you find it more productive, more personally valuable? What's the thing about introversion and time alone?
I find it is helpful for focus, definitely, to be focused and to be sort of focused on what's going on internally, and so there's been a lot of kind of slowing down in that. In that process of kind of spending more time by yourself, and being in a pandemic, things are slowed down, and then like looking more internally, having more focus on sort of where you actually want to put focus and less distraction. So I think those are all really positive things that come out of the introverted experience. The extroverted part, I love the energy of other people. I love interaction and conversation and all the great stuff that comes out of the relationships and connection. But it's just there's really good things about both parts, and I'm connecting to both parts of myself in that way.
I suspect I'm seeing things come up in the chat, and it's Dawn. I knew it would be Dawn looking it all up online. It's called an ambivert.
Ambivert. I think I'm an ambivert.
I knew that Dawn would look it up. If I said it out loud, he would look it up.
Thanks, Dawn. Ambivert.
Are you a cat or a dog person?
I'm an all animals person, but I think if I was going to have a dog or a pet, I would be a dog. I do really, really love dogs. And I love how sort of more involved they are in your world.
In your life, yeah.
Than their own life.
And yet a dog has not shown up in your living room.
A dog? No, my own dog has not showed up. Lots of visiting dogs. Lots of.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
What is the social impact project that's important to you right now?
Social impact.
I know that I know you're constantly socially involved. So societally involved. So I'm interested to know what's the current most interesting.
Well, the current thing I would say is like in this, especially over this last couple of years, going through, lots of unexpected and sort of deep processes on a personal and collective level. I feel that the mental health condition and human experience right now is very important, and to the point of critical, since it's now being, really confirmed as a, epidemic and something that nobody really wanted to look at ever before, or very little. And the fact that now it's very hard, it's come up in so many ways and surfaced in so many ways and in so many forms that it's really unavoidable now. So I think that's the one that I would really connect to and want to get a bit more involved in a bit more directly. And what I think is really important to so many more people now than ever before as well.
For sure. And so your want to kind of venture further into teaching, I'm sure, has a lot to do with that too. There's so much impact that you can have in so many ways with art therapy that, I know you've bordered on that for so many years.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I've always been interested in that, and I've been doing more of it as the time is in recent time, and the more I do it, the more interested I am in pursuing it, because I really enjoy the art as a vehicle to help people. And it seems to be a really, really effective vehicle to,
very
especially
powerful
to explore,
vehicle, for sure.
Especially exploring mental health and all that comes with that.
For sure. Whose artistic, creative advice do you most value in the world?
Creative, artistic advice,
input. I don't want to say critique, because it's just, whose advice do you value?
Well, there's I don't think there's anyone specifically right now. I haven't been looking at artists particularly. I've been learning a lot about trauma and intergenerational trauma and trauma in its various forms. So someone who's been really influential on my sort of general perspective has been Gabor Mate.
Oh, yes.
and who's like been, really sort of, speaking to, trauma and mental health, and not specifically with art in terms of, but that's a voice that I've been listening to a lot and learning from, and feel like that's really powerful information and important information that I would, heed and learn from.
And likely will find some translation in your creative process anyway.
And that's what I do find, is that whether it's art directly, it always kind of blends in, and whatever these different voices inform art, like they are multidisciplinary, I guess.
For sure.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter even if your subject matter or your aesthetic is sunny, there's always so much, even if it's your process, if it's the repetitiveness of the patterns of whatever that is, it's all a response to that learning, I think. So you're right. That is the advice, the broader advice. What's the most adventurous travel that you've ever done?
Oh, well, I have been fortunate to do lots of adventurous travel, which my brother always, when I tell him when I come back from my travels, he says, and I am so excited about all these adventures that I've gotten into. He's always like, your vacations are my worst nightmare.
And that is the statement of all statements. That's when you know that you've cowed them all down to, I couldn't do what you do. That's brilliant.
Well, I just enjoy to do, I don't know, I've been lots of different places. I feel like I've had lots of, opportunities to do lots of exploration and discoveries. I've been to the Arctic and to the Amazon, and spent lots of time living and traveling and even working in Latin America, in Central America. So I've definitely had lots of really great adventures, and in the mountains, lots of ski touring adventures, and times when I thought I would die, and but always seemed to make it out somehow. So
it's why I asked you, because I think you have adventured more than most people I know. And at the strangest moments, it's a momentary, I'm picking up and I'm going to the Amazon. I'm picking up and I'm going to the Arctic. It has always been your way. So I didn't know if there was one standout on the edge experience for you.
Oh, geez, I just have to think about it. Well, I think one that comes to mind was ski touring up to, and I'll have to try to remember the name of the place. There's a place in Revelstoke, and we went ski touring there once and we were climbing up, and we had a late start, and we had my guy that I was with at the time, his parents and 2 dogs. And we had a late start, and lots of snow and lots of wind. And the first rule of ski touring is don't have a late start, especially when you have a big day. And of course we did that. And so I think it was called the 7 Steps to Heaven or something, this tour. And there was a hut at the top of this thing. But at some point, the wind just was blowing, and the second rule that we broke of ski touring is never separate in your group. And we separated in our group because we had the parents behind us, and then the fellow I was with, who separated and went ahead because he was going to try to find the cabin before it got too dark. And this windstorm where this snow was blowing across the snow, and so that you couldn't actually see the track in front of you, which you were following, because it was getting blown over as the light was it was getting darker, and then this wind was blowing, and then so you couldn't even see the ski tracks, and then there was these dogs circling around my legs.
Oh God.
And then the parents way behind us, because our group had separated so that we would try to get to this place before it got too dark. And so I found myself with my boyfriend at the time way ahead of me that couldn't see him in any direction, and then the parents way behind me, who knows how far back, and then the two dogs circling around my legs. And then at one point I thought, I sat down and absolutely thought I was not going to make it. I sat down, I was like, it started scripting the letter that, you know, that was going to be in the, or not the letter, but in the newspaper, how, you know, how I was
were you going to leave it in the snow?
Yeah, frozen in the snow on the mountain with these dogs on my legs. And then somehow I saw the light of the cabin. So we found the cabin, the lights were turned on, then I was able to find, make my way to the rest. And then the parents came but it was really scary. That was a super scary time. That
is super scary. An analogy for everything, but it's super scary. What was the last painting that you purchased from another artist?
I did a trade.
Yeah.
Same. With Mike Cameron.
Oh.
Yes. For a funny little painting that was in Elevation Gallery that I fell in love with. It was a little dog, it's the little dog that's shopping for a ski suit.
Right.
On Banff Avenue.
I remember that painting. It was the strangest little painting.
It's a very strange little painting, and there's a little pink one piece pink ski suit on display on Banff Avenue, and in a window, and this little dog is on the street admiring this ski suit.
This pink ski suit. I remember. It's just like 10 by 10 inches. It's small.
Yes, it's a little tiny one. It's so cute.
To have all of that.
Yeah, whole story in this 10 by 10 little frame. It's just adorable.
Which painter changed your perception of what art could be?
I'm going to go to a literary one. I'm going to go to Gabriel Garcia Marquez and the genre of magic realism.
Yeah.
Because when I was studying Spanish in Spain, we were introduced to Latin American magic realism and in film and in literature, and that really kind of was an inspiration to me. And I feel like ever since then, even though it's in a different artistic form and in a different language and even in a different media, because it's often in film, it's something that really broke open the possibilities. For me, I thought, because I also see it, and there is actually some paintings as well. But mostly it's literature and film where that idea of magic realism is expressed in that genre. And I love that it kind of breaks through. It's an unlikely combination, magic and realism, and how they can sort of coexist.
Coincide. Well, and it always continues to show itself in your work. Mm-hmm. What apart from art's passion in your life right now?
I think I'm trying to learn how to garden and plant things, but I haven't gotten very far, but that is a passion that I'd like to pursue. And I find that, it's really, I'd like to be able to make some kind of a garden, some kind of a beautiful outdoor
You have
space.
been. You spent your summer making a garden.
I did some landscaping. I did some hardscaping. So I did some like using rocks and hardscaping. I didn't plant a lot of things. I didn't commit to like actually designing like a proper garden yet. But that's something that with different heights of tree, like sculptural, like a sculptural garden with plants rather than with rocks.
What tool do you most use in your work?
I mostly use a paintbrush but I use lots of things in my house that are in the shape of a circle. So I have a weird collection of circle things that are like the perfect size circles that I know, like the perfect size, party platter is this, this certain size of circle that I can use for this, because I've been using the circle for a long time. So I have a great go-to of circles in my studio.
What's something you notice about strangers when you first meet them? Like going into other people's houses. This is a similar kind of question. When you meet a stranger, what do you first see?
I don't know. I don't even remember when the last stranger I met. What do I notice? I guess I noticed that they're what's different about them. What is their strangerness. What
strangerness
about them. Right?
This is the part of the conversation I love the most, is that your answers are all this incredible, like the alternative all the time. So you have this lovely gentleness, but yet every answer to every question is the alternative to it. It's brilliant. It's like looking for the strangeness in a stranger.
Well, it's the unfamiliarity. That's the opposite. It's like if I look at people that I know, then I look at what I know about them. And if they're a stranger, I'll probably identify what is unfamiliar to me about them. I don't know. It's that.
There's no assumptions. You don't assume anything instantly.
I don't think so. I think I try not to.
What's your guiltiest glutenless pleasure?
Guiltiest, what is the second?
Glutenless
pleasure.
I wanted to put in cakes and cookies and stuff, and then I had to say glutenless. What's your guiltiest glutenless pleasure?
Right here.
Yeah, I'm with you. Right here.
Luckily, it has no gluten. How exciting is that?
I know. I keep saying it. How do you start every day?
I start every day by trying to make good choices and good decisions, and trying to do the things that I know that help me and make me feel good, like starting the day, not rushing around, and taking a few minutes to do some meditation and checking in with myself. I try to do that. I try to have kind of a morning practice.
What's the productive time of the day? Is morning your most productive, or is nighttime?
No, morning.
As an artist, productivity
as a person, the morning is,
mm-hmm.
And then as an artist, probably the afternoon. I don't do well painting in the morning, but focusing myself and getting organized is a morning activity, and then painting is more of a afternoon activity for me. That's a better time for my creative part.
Do you ever paint long into the night?
No, not really. No, I prefer to paint in the daylight hours, in the natural light.
Yeah, and that is key, especially in studios with just big open windows. I want to ask, this is a question I kind of know. Do you like surprises? I always like to ask you that because I know so well.
No.
Yeah.
I think I do, but then it turns out I totally don't when it happens.
I totally hate surprises. Do you remember the first painting you ever made?
I remember one of the first paintings I ever made, because I remember when I lived in Lake Louise, and I loved Lake Louise so much, and I still do. And I wanted to paint Lake Louise because I lived there for 12 years, and it was a very special place for me. And so I wanted to paint Lake Louise. And that was before I studied painting. That was before, it was just like, I was just a desire that I had to capture what I felt about Lake Louise. And so I remember doing that, and I had no idea what I didn't know how to paint, but I really wanted to do it. So I did it, and I was pretty happy with it.
Did you keep the painting?
No, I didn't keep the painting. Somebody bought the painting, but I kept it for a while.
Yeah. Has there ever been a painting of your own that you've kept?
Yeah, I keep lots of my paintings.
Like long-term keep.
Oh, long-term? No. Well, no. Mostly they're short-term keeps.
Yeah, that's always I always have a hard time imagining the moment where an artist is like, this is the one I have to keep of your own work. I know keeping other people's pieces, but have you ever, this is a big question and I tend to ask it again, but have you ever doubted that inspiration would find you?
Oh my gosh, yes. So many times. Oh, so many times. Well, it comes and goes. And then when it's gone, it's just, I find it's very scary when it goes away and you don't know when it's going to come back or how long it's going to take. And it's a really scary place.
Is there an activity that you can do? What do you do when it's?
Well, I just try to do different things and try not to get too worried about it, because I know that, at this stage of the game, I know that it's an ebb and flow, as all things are, that it sort of comes and goes as it needs to. But that doesn't make it more comfortable. It just makes it more like that you try to use your time. I try to use my time doing something else and not getting too worried about it. Like I'll spend more time outside, doing different activities, or trying or learn something different, change activities, try to learn something different to bring into my work when the inspiration does come back.
And how long is the longest ebb in the ebb and flow? How long, has there been a stop in your creative practice, in your artistic practice?
I don't know exactly. I don't remember exactly like when or how, but it seems that this last one, like before, I was like over this last couple of years, it was hard to paint it was very hard to paint. It was hard to feel inspired and, what do you paint in the middle of a pandemic? What do you want to say? What is appropriate? What is, so I think that was probably the biggest gap of time where it was really, really seemed like, I don't know what I want to say. I don't know what I want to put out in the world. I don't know if I want to put out anything. Anything
in this world. And yes. For a good reason. What's the most positive thing that came out of that period? When
I kind of, what I had to look at that as a bit of a practice as well, where I knew that I had to kind of work a little bit harder to find what it was that I wanted to say and what my stand. I needed to take a bit more of a standpoint and make a stand in terms of, I want to make a decision, choose to make something that I feel good about, that I feel is positive, and that I feel is hopeful. And that was sort of a decision that I made, and that helped me kind of work through the non-inspirational time.
Stop. Yeah, for sure. We're down to the last 2 questions. They're always the hardest ones. We're at the end.
You're saving the hard ones till the last?
I always do. Where in the world did you or do you feel most yourself?
I actually had a friend of mine visiting that I hadn't seen for a long time a couple of months ago, and we went down by the Bow River here in Cochrane.
Yeah.
And she kind of asked a similar question, and I realized in that exact moment when she asked that similar question that that when I'm by the Bow River, I feel like I'm most myself and I'm most at home. And that's probably because I have been living along the Bow River for 30 years. And I feel really, that was really important when I moved here, is that even though I'm not in the mountains anymore, which was really hard for me, I was still on the Bow River, which
touching the river. Yeah.
Yeah.
It shows up. Yeah. And it shows up in the work fairly frequently as well. And obviously in your life, you know, that you're right. Where you live is right at the heart of the Bow too, which is fantastic. Last hard question. Have you ever doubted your choice of profession? Has there been a period of doubt?
Again, many periods of doubt. But at the end of the day, it's kind of a calling. It's kind of like, it's
impassable.
What's that?
It's impassable.
It's impassable. Yeah. It's a path. And
yep.
And that's it. I think that, so when you want to get off and you're like, no, I'm going to do something else. I'm going to become a plumber. It's so much more practical, but then it doesn't happen because it's not the right thing. It's
like supposed to be. And I don't know that everyone can understand that. I don't know that everyone watching or everyone thinking about it could understand that. But I think the majority of whoever your cohort, your real community are, get it. And then the rest of the people, you can only try and explain that over and over again. It's like, it's an impossibility. It's an impassibility.
It is. Yeah, but it's a great path. It's just not an easy one.
It's not an easy path.
No.
And I get it. And it never more has it been more obvious than now in all of our lives. But it is for very obvious reasons. It's an incredibly powerful choice as well. And the power to inspire people and the power to talk about things that we're all thinking and feeling and to make manifest of those things. That to me, you know, I don't know that everyone gets a chance to say that in their lives. So what a brilliant thing that you have. And on that note, we move past the 35 questions to the show. So reNEWal as celebration. So this is what brought you out of your isolation period. And I guess it's I've posted your artist statement, but just maybe in your own words, just talk a little bit about the process of going back to painting and really kind of committing to putting forth something after hesitating to put anything out there.
Yeah, I think that like, as I mentioned before, that there was more of a commitment to the practice and to showing up to the practice and showing up to the studio and, you know, and exercising the choice that
I loved that part of your statement.
Yeah, that you're like realizing like we have choices. We can choose to, you know, and I was really down for a lot of that time. I was really sad. It was really hard times. But then I realized that, you know, it's my choice to you know, express myself, to use my art as a way to uplift myself and hopefully others, and to find hope in difficult times. And so that, and to renew that, that's why I wanted to use that term reNEWal. It's like when you take out a library book and then you want to read it, but then stuff happens and you don't get around to it. So it's like you have to keep renewing it, and so it's like this renewal of commitment to your art practice. And so reNEWal in that sense, and also in the sense of coming back to something that after a pause or a period of time away from something, and then the celebration of the fact that, you know, there's always something, even in the most difficult of times, which we've certainly had and continue to have, that that looking around and finding, you know, that even like a little, you know, pine cone on the ground or something, and having a look at that and just finding inspiration in these smaller places that you probably never looked before, because there was always so much more activity and distraction and things going on. So celebrating, finding things to celebrate even in these dark and difficult times. That's basically the statement.
Well, and there's definitely in all of it some opportunities. So there's a little video that you created that was on YouTube. So I'm going to play. It's very short, and then we'll just go in and flip through some of the imagery from the show, so you can talk about renewing some of your older themes and creating some new themes and what's different about the new work. But I'll play the video first real quick.
Oh, the sound is not working.
This summer, I stumbled upon a special, powerful place. At first, it looked like a regular meadow, until I camped beside it for a couple of days, observing it, discovering it looked more like a sacred garden than a regular meadow. There was a circular point to it, and the wildflowers and the grasses inside the circle were so I could use my experience and memory to look even deeper into the meadow and see it come alive with the sacred Sundance ceremony. I was only at the ceremony for a short time, but it was enough to transport myself. Transport myself back there, to feel the presence of the people camping out at the edge of the meadow, surrounding it, witnessing the 4-day midsummer ceremony, supporting the dancers in the lodge in the center of the meadow, and sending their prayers during this powerful ancient rite. I feel that the land remembers this, and so the meadow has grown back, just ever so slightly differently in this area, to honor the people who honor the land.
So Lucie, oops, there we go. Am I unmuted?
Yes.
Okay, good. It was great to see your process. It was great to see how many layers there are to every single piece. And I wanted to just look through quickly some of the pieces from the show, just to kind of look at some of the older themes in the different series over time. You know, I know that there was a tremendous amount of kind of energy put into the revival after you left the fires in Fort Mac, and this kind of phoenix from the fire. And so the images of the kind of the sun and looking up through the trees were all part of a prior series. But what's changed in some of these works? So the waterfall, certainly something you've revisited a lot, the flow state. So I'm interested to know what's happening with the work now. What's changing?
I just want to say that before I say that, I want to just say that it's too bad that the sound wasn't working on that video, because there was actually a story that was being told throughout that video.
It was fine on my end. Was it bad on everyone else's? I heard it. No one heard it.
No, it wasn't coming through to me anyway. I don't know about the other people, but yeah, it was weird. The sound was
weird.
Yeah.
Okay.
But anyway,
my apologies. Yes, go.
Okay. So I guess one of the things that I've noticed that I have done is, and I revisit certain things, certain things like the waterfall, certain images, and I come back to them to see how I would paint them at a later time.
A new phase, yeah.
A new phase, and just to see exactly like, okay, here's the same situation, but what do I see differently, or how would I paint it differently? What have I learned, or how would I, how would I apply? I don't know. So it's sort of like almost like a test or something for myself. And so, so the one on the left, the waterfall there, was a test of painting the whole entire painting, and then at the very end taking the white paint and like splashing at the very, very end, which seemed very, very scary to me, because like if you don't like that, then, and it's the very last step, it was a really kind of exciting and kind of scary.
Where it's gonna go, for sure.
Yeah, because you can't really undo that, and to spend all that time, making your painting and then just putting the splash at the end. So that was really fun. And I really like the effect, because it sort of really, it has that, like the water, the water droplets kind of coming to life on the canvas. So it worked out really well in that case. I'm happy I was happy with it anyway. And then the one on the right was, so it was an image from after the Fort McMurray, that show there with the sun coming through. And then this is one of the first paintings that I painted, a landscape with these patterns embedded into the image. So I had used the pattern, I started using the patterns with the smaller pieces and with the animals and sort of smaller scale. And this was one of the first ones that I applied that patterning within a sort of a more of a landscape. So I used that image to see to test that out, I guess.
To construct the entire image from the pattern. And so this really speaks to that, constructing your entire kind of form and concept out of pattern.
Yes.
So this is a pivotal piece for this show.
Yeah, and then sort of looking at the positive and negative, obviously, and the reflections and the positive and negative, and the just kind of flipping it around, and so that playing with these patterns, that's sort of what this show, and bringing them into the landscape and into the sky, and establishing them and then breaking them.
Yeah, and that's exactly what happens. These just finite breaks, but to create room for nature, basically, in the patterns of nature, but to create room for a definitive form in it. So the raven and the moon really speaks to that. So do even these, like there's this kind of buildup of the form, but these recognizable characters in the whole landscape are created out of pattern.
And these ones are sort of the in-between ones. These floral pieces, there's sort of taking the alpine flowers and the floral mountain landscapes, and kind of pushing them towards that patterning more, and that structural with the lines and those sort of more organic patterns, and then going into those really, really structured patterns after that.
And then the mountainscape, but these are so changed from where they've been, and it's the sort of the nuance, the flow of light in the skies, the kind of changing patterns, slightly changing patterns to create time of day or to create something, and how, like, obviously very advertent, but I'm wondering, you know, how far was too far? Was there too far for you in the creation of that deep patterning?
Well, there was again, that was kind of the interest and the it was kind of like a puzzle, in a sense of like I put a pattern on the underneath, and then painted, and then put pattern on top, and then so kept building, sort of embedding the pattern into all layers of the painting, and then pushing and pulling forward and back. These ones, because they are monochromatic, I intentionally did that so that I could really play with the pattern as well as the values.
Yeah, the subtle value part.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. And it speaks to it. For me, it speaks to the tug of war between how much is too much and when to stop. And it was almost.
Oh yeah, yes. There's a fine line, and these ones are, I think if they had color, it would be more difficult.
Yeah, absolutely. So these pieces, just to give people perspective, but really to kind of get a little bit of distance from them, it just gives you opportunity to really understand the hard line between the pattern and the form, or the blurred line between pattern and form. So I hope that everyone has enjoyed seeing the imagery as well. And I'm hoping that there's some questions for the artist. I'm hoping there's opportunity to chat back and forth. So I'm going to stand back and see if there's any questions.
I'll dive in.
Excellent. Hello, Chrissy Nickerson.
Hi, Cheryl. Well, I was just like, what am I going to ask? And Cheryl's recent line of questioning in regards to patterning, those were great questions. So I'm just going to follow up from there. Do you use historical, traditional patterns? Like, are you referencing, like, or is it just completely made up? Or like some of these older patterns, sometimes they have like hitting like actual meaning, like Islamic gardens, for example. You know, it's all about water and structural stuff, which, you know, has religious connotations to afterlife or not, or rugs, or, you know, the patterns in Pompeii wall art, you know, the borders of infinity and stuff like that. Do you ever think about that, or like the mandalas?
Yeah, I think about sacred geometry. Yeah. And I think about different patterns from different cultures and different traditions. Mm-hmm. And the architectural ones that I think you're talking about, the Persian and Islamic ones. And I appreciate all of those different kind of traditions and patterns. I'm not working with sort of like a particular one. And I'm trying to sort of use sort of more generic ones, and then sort of make them like play with them to make them sort of my own. So I'm not really borrowing or using any patterns from other traditions that I intentionally, anyway.
It's neat because obviously your work is iconically Lucie Bause, right? And now to see it again after a few years, it's like, there's just no doubt that they are your patterns, right? It's neat hearing you talk about art therapy and process and manifestation of helping yourself through play with the work with these patterns and stuff. Just not that this is the place for it, but what a, not contradiction, what a you know, for a future show idea someday, it would be neat to see this organic work alongside some of your patterns, maybe in terms of math or the other side of the geometry of the grand scale of how it all fits together, and kind of make it go towards the science side. Be kind of neat.
Very interesting, actually.
Yeah, that'd be cool. Anyway, well done. I'll see you on Saturday, and I look forward to hearing your
thanks,
questions.
Chrissy. Thanks, Chrissy.
Great questions. Thank you.
So I have a question. This is Wanda speaking.
Hello, Wanda speaking.
Hi. So, you know, I've never really had the opportunity to talk with you about your work. So this is really, really special for me. And I really appreciate what Cheryl has done here and allowed us to come and do this. So a couple of things. I have 100 things I'd like to talk to you about, but I'm trying to narrow it down to one or two because I find this work really exciting. One of the things is the circle is such a powerful archetype. It travels around the globe. It's like it's embedded in our souls. And so for you, did you come to using that circle as a means of carrying some meaning or directing the viewer, or in response to your own, I'm going to say spiritual research, whether it was spiritual or scientific or whatever, I don't care. But how did you come to that?
So the short answer is
yeah,
all of the above. Yes.
Okay.
All of those things. and then the continue. It's an exploration of the circle. What does it mean? It means
right.
so many things. It's just a continuous exploration. I think I've been using that the circle in my work for like quite a few years now, and and it's just an ongoing exploration of what does it mean? In terms of it has so many layers and
right.
depths of meaning. So I'm just kind of trying to scratch the surface. Yes.
Yeah. And I love that in the work because it's also like it, and this, before I even sort of really knew you or anything, your work with the patterns was always very like meditative to me. It's like, creating pattern after pattern and layer after layer, and through the process, right?
Yeah.
Your process is amazing. I mean, I just find it stunning. And I like the juxtaposition of the form and the patterns, because it's like, okay, I'm engaged with this pattern, I'm painting this pattern, but wait a minute, I can also break this pattern. I don't have,
I'm not lost in it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And that speaks to it's like, I like the idea of that in the terms of like psychologically, right? That's that choice, right? We can choose to continue a pattern, or we can choose to break a pattern. And I think we're being called now to break some really big patterns in our, in our collective. So,
yeah. And that's what I see in your work. I see that this nature is like a breaking of this pattern, but at the same time, the pattern is still very there and present and powerful. Mm-hmm. So, yeah. Well, thank you for sharing that. I just,
thanks.
I have a lot of other things. I'm going to see you Saturday. We'll talk.
Okay, then we'll continue to be continued on Saturday.
All right.
It's so great. And it is so great to kind of emerge in, from whatever, if you can't make the show, to be part of some sort of emergence of talking about art again, talking about process, talking about life, and getting to know a little bit more. So I'm really grateful that you participated, Lucie. I know there was a question for a little while about whether you were going to do it or not. Yes. And so I'm glad that you chose to.
Well, thank you. I'm glad as well.
Unnerving. Yeah, it's always a little unnerving, and I get it. But it is great to kind of commit it to one point in life, and to rewatch it later and say, oh, hell, I can't believe that's where I was at that moment too. And there's just so much in it for other people to hear about the meditative quality of repeating patterns, and they'll look at your work differently. They'll look at all of their art experiences differently for knowing that. So I'm grateful. I hope everyone enjoyed themselves tonight. And I'm going to, this is recorded, so it's going up on YouTube tomorrow. I urge you to rewatch Lucie's video on YouTube as well. Search her name on YouTube and you'll see 3 or 4 really lovely videos. I'm sorry that I don't know what happened with sound. Embedding YouTube videos is always a little tentative and it sounded perfect at my end. So who knows what happened there, but the story was really important to that piece. And
Yeah,
so I
was.
urge you to watch it. Yeah, I urge you to watch it because that was kind of the pivotal bit. And hopefully you'll come to the show. It's up until December 15th. And it is lovely. It's hung. It's already on the walls. I've completed tonight. And so truly, I urge you to come in, talk, spend some time with us and see the work. Lucie's going to be doing a bit of a project on Saturday as well while she's there, and hopes that she'll have some participation in it just for fun. I will see you all soon. And thanks for the evening cocktail with Elevation Gallery. So good night.
Thank you.
Good night. Good night.
Night
Thank
all.
you.
Night all.
Thank
Good
you.
night. Well done.
Night. Good night, Lucie. See you Saturday.
Good night. We'll see you on Saturday. Bye.
Good job, Lucie Bause. And we are off.
Okay. Thank you very much. That's, yeah.
I'm just trying to turn the video off. Oh, Dawn, can you turn the video off?